Hello. I hope your day's been swell. This is the second episode of my Let's World Build series, and today we're going to iron out and figure out all of the magic system stuff. Magic, I don't know why I said it that way. Here we have the same note that we used last time. I haven't done anything with it at all. It's still in its same state. As you can see, there's not a huge amount that's been filled in, but that's just how it is early on. So yeah, the first thing that we need to do here is create the color K page. So what I could do here is right click and then create new note right there, or something that Obsidian does, and which is kind of cool, is that you can just click on the page and then it creates it. It just creates it for you with the same name and everything. The only thing is that the actual note appears down here. It appears in the main folder, so you have to like drag it to where you want it to go, in this case into Universe K. So yeah, I have already opened up this magic system template here. Let me just copy that and then paste it into here, change the tags, and now let's scroll back up. What should the very general, very basic description of this be? I'll just type something out real quick. So yeah, something very basic. Color is able to be manipulated by living organisms in Universe K. And I've highlighted that there, or linked that. This is the page for how that magic works. Very straightforward. And I'm actually going to link the magic system page. And then I also want to, let's add Universe K. So let's just add the magic system to this note. For now, I'll just label it as color K because there's no other name for it right now. As you can see, this one actually has a name. Spelled it unviers. I always do that. I always spell it unviers. Okay. Anyways, I'm just going to get into it now. You can see that there's a general section just like in the universe page. Etymology won't be filled in yet because there's no languages. Location can be filled in though. It's very easy. It's just Universe K. It is notably practiced on the planet and then whatever we end up naming the planet. We don't have any intelligent species to use it, none of this sort of stuff. That'll come later. There are no languages to have demonyms of it. And then mechanics of use. This is the main bulk of what we'll be doing today, but I'm actually just going to skip over it for now so I can explain the rest of it. And a lot of this should be very straightforward, but if there's anything that I feel should be explained in more detail, then I'll explain it there. So societal use. This is just, how a society uses this magic system. Whether there is centralized learning, by like a state or by a private industry, something like that. Basically schooling. How do laws interact with this system? Yeah, and then these are all pretty straightforward. So if societal use is how it's used, then the culture section is how a society interacts with and conceives of this thing, how it represents it. You can see that there's how important is this magic to this culture? How popular is it? What are the conceptions? How does the media interact with this thing? How is it represented in art and stuff like that? Or even in popular phrases and language. Yeah, this education section might be a bit erroneous since there is already an education section up here. These templates are not perfect, but if I can remember why I put that here as well, then that's good. I am not a perfect human being, sadly. How does the government use it in propaganda? And then this is all very straightforward. Is there love or hatred for magic? That could be interesting. And then the history section. So I've just realized that this template is more for a magic system that is tied to a specific culture. It's still pretty good to use here since I can just delete this stuff, and it's good to explain this stuff anyways, so I'm glad I made that mistake. Because this isn't for if magic changes on a very basic level, it's for if there was a system for using magic that came before this current system that's being described here. And the ways of using magic can be different if different peoples discover things about the magic as time goes on, if knowledge is forgotten, stuff like that. So these are not relevant here, and I'm actually just going to delete them, which I do a lot in my templates. Whenever I'm using them functionally, I just delete things that are not relevant at all, which you will see a lot. And in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and... Actually, you know what? I'll keep these parts for very general societal things and very general cultural things, because that could be cool to have, even if it's not very specific. And then I could have different pages for very specific uses or very specific systems for this magic. Actually, I'll have those very specific systems listed once I have like species and civilizations to use them here. I'll just put them in like parentheses next to the whatever organization's name. So yeah, that is that for all of that miscellaneous explanation. And now we're going to start brainstorming some stuff. So I have not really thought of this magic much in between last episode and this episode. So how I'm going to do it here is that I'm just going to brainstorm on the spot, basically. And it can take me a while to think of stuff, so this video is not going to be like an hour or two long, thankfully, but I'm just going to cut out any times when I'm thinking silently, stuff like that. So yeah, that's how this is going to work. Alrighty-nighty, so into the meat of things now, shall we? This could take a long time, or it could take a short time. Honestly, I don't really know, so I'm just going to get into it, I guess. Luckily, we already did a bunch of the basic rules in the last episode. If I just go open up a new tab here for Universe K, where is it? Honestly, except for that last bit, can just copy that over just as like it's a pretty good starting point. I want to add another... There we go, now all the dots look nice and dotty. At this step in the process, I like to just expand on what I already have, so it does not affect the other forces. I do want to keep that. There's not really much else to that. I don't know why I had it where they were all under one thing. These are all separate in the basic rules of the magic itself. And this is going to be the big one, where this is where I'm going to have to do a lot of brainstorming. So get ready for that. So... different colors can be absorbed and released. There are a bit more details with this, mainly in the mechanics of how the color acts when it's within someone, whenever it leaves an object, stuff like that. So first, when a color is absorbed, it is sucked from the object entirely, leaving it without any saturation. So the same brightness is there, it's just black and white. Yeah, I think that describes it pretty well. And by leaving it without any saturation, I mean like every object is going to have a grayscale value to it, how saturated it is. So it's basically just leaching the saturation from it entirely. And so if you did that with like an entire object, it would just be left as completely black and white, sort of like if it was in like a 1950s movie or something. So how about when it's being held within an organism? When held within an organism, color is stored, and I actually want... I really did just call it color energy. Well, this is obviously going to get a better name in the future, but for now, that's sort of like the placeholder name. Sometimes I like to make funky little portmanteaus. Colorgy. I like that. Colorgy is pretty cool, at least as a placeholder. This is kind of a tongue twister. Color is stored as an energy called colorgy, which is invisible at low amounts but starts to glow with the stored color the more color is stored. I really hope that makes sense. Yeah, so whatever color is being stored, that's what it'll glow with. If you have like an especially powerful being that has a lot of red color that it absorbed, then it'll start glowing red. So I think that's pretty good. And now I need how something is to be released and how the color itself acts when it's released. Sort of like this is like a three-way system sort of thing. Alright, so when the color G is released, it comes to the surface, or I guess appears on the surface would be a better word, wherever it is released and then quickly fades, with the intensity of that color being directly related to how much is being released. So like if you release a whole bunch of red color from your hand's going to turn red for a little bit. Well, a little bit makes it seem like a minute or two, but it's really only like 10 seconds, I imagine. Actually, I should probably clarify that. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I put little notes in there in my notes just to be ultra sure of things. And actually, I just thought I should add something else here about the limit of storage. Is there a limit to how much can be stored? So, there is no hard limit for how much energy can be stored in something, though how much an organism can withstand cold before dying definitely plays into that. And you might be wondering, when did this happen? Well, this happened while I was thinking of this statement. So, the immediate idea was whenever magic is being stored, maybe it would create some heat, but I realized that I do that with a lot of my magic systems, especially with like when it's being used, it creates heat. So I wanted to change it up within my own stuff and say that instead of heat, whenever a lot of it is being stored, it actually creates cold. Or it creates, what's the opposite term of heat? It sucks away heat. I think that's as good a term as I can get in this economy. So, there are a few bullet points that need to go before this, I've realized. First being, the more color G is stored in something, the colder it becomes. I think that's a pretty cool idea. It's not especially groundbreaking, obviously. In fact, it's not groundbreaking at all, but I think it's cool. Stuff doesn't need to be groundbreaking to be cool. That's something that I've realized with my own world building is, even if it's something that's done a lot, if I really like it, I'll do it. I don't care. If I think it's cool, then I'll use it. Why not? Anywho. And this might go more into the dynamics of color G itself. It probably doesn't warrant its own page, but I might make it at a later time if I deem it so. But for now, just want to state that color G can also be stored in objects, given that a being voluntarily gives it to the object. So like if I have a lot of color energy, then I can give some of that to like this water bottle that's on my desk that you can't see. But I'm pointing at it. Yeah, I can just like give it to this water bottle. And so this also means, if you're reading this literally, that an object cannot like accidentally get color G. It can't just absorb color off of an object without something happening to it. And I'm going to keep this sort of soft for now, because I could define just how cold it becomes in like, I could try to like finagle around some exact units, and I might do that later, but for now I'm going to move on. This statement, it can be kept the same, but this one, oh boy, this one. This, I have to determine which colors have which abilities and what those abilities will even be. And actually, to help myself a little bit on the sort of ideas that I'm going for here, I want to clarify a few things down here. So I want emotion to not play a part in magic at all. And this is a thing that I do a lot, where I sort of lean towards like a more scientific mode of how things work, so I don't want emotion to play into anything. I do eventually want to make a magic system where emotion plays a part, maybe even like a primary part. For this one, organisms have these specific rules to deal with, and it's up to them in how they deal with those rules. Energy source, color G. Yeah. So channeling. You cannot channel energy through objects in the sense where like you do not need magical objects to like pass the energy through to use it. That's what I mean by this. That is not needed. Beings, yes. I mean, beings are the ones that have the energy in them, but not necessarily that like you don't need another being to channel through to use the magic. Honestly, this whole section is just not really needed. And I'm tempted to get rid of this section, but I think it's an important thing to clarify just going forward. Consequences. I've already sort of laid this out above, but absorbing color causes the thing to grow colder. And actually, this would be a good place to properly define just how much it gets colder, though I do run into the issue of how do you define a unit of color, I guess. Though actually, I could base it off of surface area. Since color is being absorbed off of a surface, it would make sense that the surface area of color is how much color is being absorbed. I think that could actually, in fact, I'm going to write that down. So the surface area of the color, actually I should add, that was absorbed determines the strength or amount, I don't really know. I mean, they're basically the same in this case, of the color G. And this isn't going to be an in-universe thing, obviously, but I want to just create like a strict unit that I can use just in my note-taking. So I can say like 1, I don't know, square meter is equal to a standard unit of color G. This is just going to be a useful tool for defining how strong these magical abilities are going to be. And you know, this is also how I take notes, where I just jump between a whole bunch of things as I think of them. Here's another thing that I just thought of. An unintended consequence of color magic and the fact that color is being absorbed is that, you know, a lot of things and a lot of colors are probably not going to be present in a lot of places, especially in like civilized places with a lot of magic users, because, you know, all the magic is being absorbed by the magic users. Just so everything's not really drab. Well, one, I can make some colors very volatile, even just straight up dangerous to absorb. And I can also do this where I can make it so that color G always glows. So no matter how much you absorb, even, you know, however little, it is always going to glow some amount. I like that because then it makes the users themselves really colorful, and any objects that they store really colorful as well. And you can also use color to like sort of flaunt your power, where if you have like really colorful clothing, that sort of shows that you like already have enough color stored within yourself. Like you're already powerful enough, sort of thing. And it can also be functional in that you can absorb color really fast if you need it really quickly, if you're, you know, wearing it on your body. These are just very beginning ideas that are flowing through me right now. The more that's stored, the brighter the glow. That makes sense. Now for the part that I've been avoiding. Which magical abilities should I choose for this? Invisibility would be cool, but it wouldn't really make sense. If you're glowing because you have a lot of power, then how are you invisible? Yeah, that just doesn't really make... It could also be a special feature of the invisible thing that it doesn't glow. I don't know. I'll consider it. I also don't want these abilities to be especially common, I guess, or especially like tropeful or whatever. Like I listed strength as one of them before, but I'm not sure if I really want to do that. I could make at least some of them improve or change in some way, like your mental state, like increased awareness, maybe heightening senses. Let's add it in. I don't know which color is going to do that, so I'm going to leave it there for now. I just want to throw out some ideas. Though I guess it might be useful to have the number of colors that I want to work with first before working with the actual abilities. Yeah, that's fair. I'll start with some of the easy ones. I'll have like the 3 unmixable colors first. The 3 primary colors. You know what I mean. This is like the base list of colors in like painting, where if you mix them, then they create all the other colors, or, you know, something like that. And then I'll put mixes under here. I think that's pretty good. And also what I've realized with the statement about saturation, that implies that brown wouldn't be what you're absorbing, it would be orange, because orange is just darker brown, or brown is just darker orange. That would mean that brown wouldn't be included here. That also implies that you cannot absorb white or black. And I do sort of like that because then it limits what can be done. I wonder if I should also make like a limitation, like something that has to be done before the color can even be absorbed, or like a condition that's got to be met. Because another thing that I've been thinking about right now is that it feels a bit too easy to be able to use the magic. Maybe I'll think of something in the future. And actually, I should add in limitations, because I just thought that... So absorption takes a lot of energy to perform, even for just a small amount of color. And I'm about to write this, but what I want to happen is that absorbing even just like a square centimeter of red light of red can be the same sort of exertion as like a 400-meter run or something like that. So maybe also going beyond this, maybe different colors take different amounts of energy to absorb. Like maybe, here's an idea. Maybe the base colors, like these simple ones, they grant pretty basic abilities that are like nothing especially special. And they still take this much energy to absorb, but there's no other conditions surrounding their absorption. But maybe their mixes have a lot of like conditions that must be met, and maybe these conditions are pretty difficult. Or maybe they take some other sort of like stress to do or something like that. Or maybe they hurt the body in some way. I should have been doing this a long time ago. But I'm going to just like type out some ideas that I won't keep in typed form, but they'll just help me with what I'm doing. A combo of extra conditions and more consequences with these ones, and I do want to have more. If you want to see something in this series that you think would be cool, just comment it on this video or on any other video. You know, I love taking ideas, and I'll take from the ones that I like and stuff like that. So going forward, beyond this, some colors have extra conditions that must be met before they can be absorbed. Those conditions are listed above. So yeah, I'm just going to put that in writing just to crystallize it some. And then for these, let's see. I'm just going to start assigning stuff to colors. I don't know why, but I'm thinking sense heightening feels sort of like a yellow thing. It feels very yellow. These three are the basics, the easiest ones to be able to absorb, which also means that you would see, paradoxically, you would see less of these colors in a very like civilized region, because then a lot of people would be absorbing these things, though maybe not a huge amount of them. Because I also have not solidly determined how much it gets colder, and I just realized that I didn't do that. So 1 SU cools something by, I don't know, let's say around 5 Kelvin. 5 Kelvin. I think that's a pretty good number. So like if you absorb a whole hand worth of a color, that's a fair amount of square centimeters. You're going to be cooling yourself by like a fair bit. You know, evolutionarily, this leads to a situation where you have a lot of organisms that can withstand cooler temperatures, literally just because it's baked into the universe itself, sort of thing. And if they want to be able to use this very useful thing, then they'll have to evolve that. But maybe, you know, then as with everything, there are going to be limits to this. So maybe you can't even hold like 2 human hands worth of energy in you at any one time, because you'll become like a frozen block of ice. Red. What does red feel like? And don't say heat or fire or anything like that, because I don't want any of these to like counteract the cooling effect, because that would sort of, you know, that would defeat the point of that. I also want it to be more enhancing to the organism itself. Here's an idea. Red gives heightened emotion and sense for emotion. By this I mean that like whenever you absorb red, you feel emotions more strongly, but it also comes with the added, you can like sense how other people are feeling a lot easier, which can also be very useful for like lie detecting and stuff like that. I've also thought that each type of magic should have like a give and take sort of thing, where yes, it gives something, but it also has like a little twist to it that complicates things. So like yellow heightens senses, but makes you more sensitive to senses. Lamau. And by this I mean, like, if you absorb a lot of yellow, then you can see like a hawk, but like bright lights will be a lot more like glaring to you, and you'll have to like squint your eyes a lot more, paradoxically. Of course, I'm keeping these descriptions very brief for now because I'm thinking of ending... Yeah, I'll end this episode after I think of what blue will be. I'll let these ideas sit for a little bit, see how I feel about them, see if they feel good after like a week later. And also to get some feedback from y'all, if any of y'all want to give some feedback on how these are looking. And maybe give some ideas for the mixes, because these could be interesting. And the mixes don't necessarily need to be like a strict combination of like green doesn't need to be a combination of the abilities of blue and yellow, is what I'm thinking now. Because like red and yellow to form orange, I don't really know how you would mix sense heightening and heightened emotion in a way that's not just like both of those at the same time, which is kind of boring. I'll think about that. Maybe I can rethink some of these colors to make them really good for combination. But anywho, blue. Ooh, blue. What am I thinking for blue? Actually, I've just thought of something for one of these. I realized that I want one of them to slow aging. And I think purple makes sense, because purple is sort of like a regal color. It's also pretty rare in our world, which this would also imply that it'll be pretty rare in this universe as well. Or, you know, on this planet, wherever it may be. I don't know yet about like a trade-off for this, but I'll try to think of one. Anywho, that was just a random idea that came to mind. Back to blue. What could blue be? Put more into memory and be able to recall more. But, so you're better able to remember things, you know, is basically what this compound sentence is saying. But at the cost of existing memories / knowledge. I'm very good at spelling. Destroying a memory could be worth like 10 new memories. Very well remembered. That's the trade-off. To be able to remember more and be able to like recall things more accurately, you have to destroy already existing memories. So if you do this for long enough, you basically have to trade who you were before in service of these new... So like if you want to be able to recite all of The Republic by Plato, then maybe you have to give up the equivalent of like all of your childhood memories, that sort of thing. That could be really cool. I like that. All right. I don't know how long this video is going to end up in the editing phase, but I have been here for over an hour, so I'm going to stop now, and I am going to leave the rest of these for the next episode. Hopefully this part shouldn't take that long, and I might even be able to start the galaxy portion, but for now, this is pretty good. Sorry that this video took a little bit to make, but I was busy for a couple of days, and I wasn't around my computer for a good batch of days. So yeah, that's why this is a bit late, a bit later than a week since the other one. But in the future, I will be around my computer, and I'm around my computer right now, obviously. So that is that. I will see y'all in the next episode, and yeah, have a good day. Farewell. However, this power was not without its bounds. I trust you are familiar with Newton's third law. To an action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. Just like all else, color magic did not escape this rule. To remember more, one must forget. To see what others feel, one must feel more strongly. To steal vibrance from the world, one must have heat stolen from them. This was the way of things, and so it was what the organisms and beings of that universe had to work with. They had to balance their own hunger for power with their health, happiness, and in some cases, their very identity. It may seem a dismal set of affairs, but I think the opposite, for it is only in hardship that determination and creativity can make some truly amazing things.